Hello everyone, and welcome back to the RedSeaPodcast. You'll have noticed a difference to start off, and that's that there is no intro. That's because um, StreamYard itself kind of screwed me over without me realizing, and up until I change some things, I can't play the intro I usually do anymore, but I I should have this fixed by whatever the next episode may be as we get back into more normal and normal scheduling in general as pre-season is starting very soon. So yeah, I should have this fixed by the next episode. Been a bit, and I apologize if you have been keeping up as much as possible on the other socials of the show. You know that there is a lot of stuff going on in the background that I've been very open about. That's kind of prevented me from streaming for about a week. Uh, and there was also the severe lack of news that prevented me from streaming for about a week. I'm pretty sure it is spot on a week, maybe it is even 8 days, and I apologize and will get back into normal scheduling as time goes on, starting from now. Um, I did want to get some things off before we actually go on and talk about the the player that none of us expected, but we have already got. That's of course uh, Diogo Nascimento, but as always, the parenthesis, as usual, everything you may need for the show is down below if you're new. If you are coming back on the regular, please do uh, subscribe only if you like what you see, because the show is getting more and more up there, and we're getting more and more chances, and I am able to give back to you all more and more as well. And one of those chances that we're getting is being in the running to be nominated for the Football Content Award. If you all can recall, for those of you that have been here for a while, my first interview, the first episode of the Red Sea Chronicle series, was with the Football Stadium Show, who went on to the Football Content Awards and almost won. Also, a very notable presence in the last year Football Content Awards finals were the boys from the 307 International Podcast. So, if you like what you see from me and Gab, of course, and if you want to see more Olympiacos representation up there, both in the running for the final and the final itself, do go check the first link down below the usual description paragraph for the episode, and go nominate us, go nominate the boys from 307, and go nominate the boys from Hellas Football. If we can somehow pull the miracle of getting all three of us up there, and maybe somehow pull off the dream of getting all three of us in the finals as well, it would be more than ideal. So I know that a lot of you already have, and I appreciate it more than you think. But for those of you that actually haven't had the chance, do go on and leave your nomination down below. And also, if you are new, do go check out all the rest of the links as well. Now, with the usual promo out of the way, and with the usual stuff out of the way. I don't wanna just tear into personal stuff again after being gone for a week, so those are for another time. Let's get into a deal that a lot of us weren't even aware of up until coaches reported on it. A lot of us didn't even know the player, including me. I've had to do quite a lot of research with quite a lot of help in this deal. And that, of course, as we said, is the deal of the quite unexpected case of Diogo Nascimento. The 22-year-old classic midfielder, I'd call him a pure center mid, even though he can drop back a bit, but I'd call him a pure center mid. Very Vitinha-like. That's what's caught the eye of many, that he's been severely compared to the world-class midfielder himself, Vitinha, at a relatively smaller stature of 166, and with his most notable presences being at the very recent under 21s Euro. I have stats from all over the place with the help of a good friend of the show on Twitter. I have stats from his season at the first division of Portugal. I have stats from the season that he spent last year at the second division. And I have some things from the Euro where he full on signed as well. The first noteworthy thing to actually go on and say is that we work this deal better than I've seen us work a lot of the deals. Of course, there was a lot of spotlight on the Scipione deal and how complicated the result was and how well and effectively Olympiacos handled such a difficult agreement. I'd say that, yes, in a lesser uh, aspect, because of course it's still a European deal compared to a South American one, but Olympiacos handled this very well, having a full-on agreement with both teams that he needed to, those of course being Benfica and Vizela. I hope I am pronouncing the second team correctly. If I am not, I'll say the team's name a lot, so I apologize. But yeah, having the deal with both those teams go through fast, and having the deal with the player as well go through fast, and getting the deal wrapped up before anyone could sniff it, honestly, because to my knowledge at least, as I said, the deal, when it got made public, quote unquote, it was already done. Like, we got to the first article that reported the deal and said that Olympiacos worked under severe secrecy and effectiveness to bring the player to Piraeus and to agree with the teams. It wasn't, we'll agree then, the player may come then. It was this, and this is happening. This is the cash that Olympiacos will give the teams. This is the contract, and stuff is done. We know, of course, that he will be traveling to Greece tomorrow, so within the weekend, we can very well expect an announcement as well. And yeah, it's certainly a very interesting case. Of course, the deal stands at 4 million, which for a player that was playing in the second division last season, it's clear even from the money that Olympiacos chose to give that we are talking about a massive midfield project and a player with a lot of potential and a lot of upside. We have confirmation that it's going to be a 4-year contract. So again, we are seeing the focus on the project aspect of the HCL, because let's not lie to ourselves. If both Scipione and Diogo work out, our midfield is set for the next half a decade. We now know that Vizela are gonna keep a 10% sell-on clause for the player, which isn't really a lot. It seems to be a deal that favored us massively. And in general, it's a very interesting case that everyone had to go on and make their own amount of research for. But it's definitely a case that can only excite someone that is looking forward to the season along with everyone else that the club is bringing in, right? Because it's been nothing but strengthening the core of the present and the future for the past few days. And I get the the frustration. I really do. I get the annoyance, perhaps, about us not actually going on to bring the wingers that are needed, uh, the players that are needed fast. Of course, there is now word going around that we are said to be expecting a winger before pre-season. That starts this week, the week coming up. So we'll have news for that very soon. But the way the club is working around strengthening the core for the future and the now has me more positive than ever. I can't lie. And I know that with Mendilibar's guidance, the players that are able to come in will actually come in. And perhaps it's another lesson for all of us, me included, of course, to not believe every report that you read, because sometimes some stuff comes out that isn't even worth mentioning. Now, from the research that I managed to do, with of course the help that I had in that research, I've managed to note down some positives and some negatives that of course I'll show off as much as I can with the stats. The first and biggest positive that I've seen consistently from everything I've seen from Diogo is the transition play and the long passes. It's you rarely see such a dead eye pass from a midfielder. You rarely see such efficient and such effortless long balls. And honestly, long balls that, as I said, seem effortless at some point. Uh, as soon as he gets the ball on his feet, he just turns around and shoots it into the sky and somehow finds his attacker. It's one of the things that you can easily say that the eye test is passed with a perfect A immediately. It's just a perfect 10 all around. And it's the first thing that anyone will actually go on and see if you actually go on and research the player. Uh, so yeah, passing and transition play, especially lengthwise, is as efficient as it gets, as far as I can see. The second thing that you can actually spot out pretty easily regarding the player is the ability to carry the ball forward and the the very flair-like dribbling. Again, as I said, we're talking about a talent and a player that passes the eye test very easily. We're talking about a player that, to say it as plainly as possible, I apologize for giving the background, by the way. to say it as plainly as possible, it's a player that you will realize that he will become a fan favorite very quickly if he lands as expected. And it's a player that he'll wow you in a matter of minutes, not even matches. He'll catch your eye. It's a player that will immediately catch your eye. Like there is no simpler way of putting it, and there is no other way of putting it. And especially for a player of his stature and his position, the fact that he can carry the ball so well, that he can dribble past the people that he needs to dribble past so well, and that he can do it with such speed, efficiency, and if and when needed, he can drop off the ball to wherever is needed. It just sounds like an incredible package, and it sounds like a complete package, even though we're talking about a player with still a huge upside to come, still a huge way for him to hit his ceiling. And we're talking about a player that, at the worst case of scenarios, he'll be profit, right? And at the best case of scenarios, as I said, along with Scipione, our midfield is set for God knows how long. I get the frustration. I get that he's a project and a risk that perhaps was not needed due to the urgency we have for reinforcements in other positions. But the more I look into the player, the more excited I am that he's coming here. So I'll keep the same mentality as I kept with Scipione and anticipate what he can and what, in my opinion, at the very least, what he will bring to the table and how he will help the team. Now, the main negative that I have noted down, because there isn't really any notable weaknesses, but the main negative that I have noted down, looking all the way back to the 23-24 season where he was playing in the first division, is that defensively he's nothing to stand out. He's a mediocre defense. As effectively as he is midfield and up, tracking back he's not anything amazing, but that's not the role that he's set to play, and that's not what he can bring to a team. So I'm not really gonna insanely focus on that. But that's the main negative, quote unquote, that I was able to note down. I hope everything's running smoothly because I I turned around so suddenly because I saw a massive spike in quality. So I hope everything continues to run smoothly. As always, for those of you that are watching now, I don't want to keep asking, especially now that the new setup is actually running way smoother. But if something is wrong and I don't notice because everything is far from perfect yet, uh, do let me know if the audio cuts, camera cuts, and everything like that. But yeah, as I was saying, that's the only notable negative that I could really manage to point out. Now, let's get into something that I've loved doing, and let me check if I have them up and well. Give me a second. I'll get it up as fast as possible. There it is. You should be able to see it in a second here, as soon as I get myself out of the goddamn way. There they are. You should be able to see everything. Do confirm to me if you can that you are able to see everything. Again, these are the stats from his run in the first division, and these are the stats from the 23-24 season. The percentile basically is what's showing how many players that how much better he was from players that played in similar positions to him in the same league at that exact stat. Most of you understand what a percentile is, I'm sure, but I wanted to explain it for those of you that don't, like I didn't up until a point. Of course, this all come from this man right here, the red scientist. Do go check him out and do go check out the Red Pep Talk, the podcast that this man runs. It's more than worth a listen and it's more than worth a follow as well. Now, the first just column basically that you can look at is the passes completed that were 48.16 per 90 and a very good 84 on the percentile, and the passes attempted that were 54.78 per 90 and a very good 79. So we're talking about a player that not only wants to go ahead and sees that transition and he doesn't even hesitate to go on and complete that transition, but we're talking about a player that does it very effectively as well. And this is what points it out, 87.9% per 90 on pass completion. That puts him at an insane 93 on the percentile. Total passing distance is 789.27. That puts him at 79. And the progressive passing distance is 193.07. That has him around average at the 58th percentile. The passes completed short are 24.73 per 90. That has him in the high 80s on the percentile with 88. Passes attempted short are 26.81. That again have him at the high 80s at 87. That puts the completion on the short passes at the 92.2% per 90. That has him in the 90s on the percentile at 91. Now, medium passes, 17.15 per 90. That has him a bit above average at a bang on 70 at the percentile. Passes attempted at medium are 18.86 with 62% on the percentile. Again, bit above average, but the completion on the medium passes stands at a 90.9%. That has him in the low 80s as well. That's very well above average, of course. Now, the very good, even from 2 years ago, good long passes that has a 4.33 completed per 90. Again, first division we're talking. That has him at a bang on 70. The long passes attempted back then weren't as many. They were at a 5.74, which has him around bang on average at a 52. And the completion for the long passes is at a 75.4. That has him at 94 on the percentile. Almost the best in the league. Assists, of course, were 0.04 per 90. That has him at a 38. Expected assists were at a 0.03. That has him at a 20. And key passes per 90 are at a 0.92. That has him a bit below average on the percentile with 47. Now we go way up again because the passes into the final third per 90 that even back then shows the thing that I was talking about, the very efficient and effective progressive play and the long balls is at a 4.91 per 90 that has him up in the 80s again. In the percentile, passes into the penalty area is 0.83 that has him a bit above average into the 58. Crosses into the penalty area is 0.21 that has him a bit more above average at a 64, and the progressive passes were 5.99 per 90 that has him up at the 80s on the percentile again. Now, this is what I was talking about the poor to mediocre defensive stats from the beginning, from his tenure at the first division of the Portuguese league. It was 1.21 tackles per 90 that has him at 16. Tackles won is 0.79 that has him at 21. Tackles in the defensive third are 0.37 that has him at 20. Tackles in the midfield are 0.71 that has him at 35. Tackles in the attacking third are 0.12 that has him at 22, the percentile. Dribblers tackled are 0.58 that has him at the 20. Dribbles challenged are 1.33 per 90 that has him at the 20 bang. Again, possession of dribblers tackled is at 43.8% per 90 that has him a bit below average at the 39. Challenges lost is 0.75 that has him at the 75 percentile. We go up above average again, but then drop again, with the blocks being 0.71 per game that has him at the 13%. Shots blocked is 0.08 per 90 that has him at 24 on the percentile. Passes blocked is 0.62 that has him at the 20. Interceptions per 90 is 0.42 that has him down at the 8 on the percentile. Tackles and interceptions are 1.62 per 90 that has him down at 7 on the percentile. Clearances is 1 per 90 that has him at the 45, a bit below average, and errors we're looking at 0 per 90 with 65 on the percentile. We go back to way bigger positives now as we look at his possession stats, his possession advanced stats at his tenure at the first division of Portuguese football. Touches per 90, he had 63.11 that puts him up the high 70s of the league's midfield at 77. Touches on the defensive penalty area is 1.54 that has him a bit below average at a 42. Touches on the defensive third now, it's 11.86 that has him around bang on average at a 53. Touches in the midfield, it's 38.71 that shows his efficiency and his effectiveness around his own area in the midfield, bringing him back up to the high 80s, to the low 80s, in the percentile with 82. And in the attacking third, it's 13.24 per 90 that has him around bang on average again at a 48. And touches, of course, in the attacking penalty area are 1.08 per 90 that has him at a 46. Touches with the live ball now, it's 63.11 per 90 that has him in the high 70s now at the 77. It's very promising all around the board for possession. But again, as I said, shows his efficiency and his effectiveness in the game. Take-ons attempted is 2.08 per 90 that has him above average, well above average at a 64. Successful take-ons, it's 1.25 per 90 that has him way above at the low 80s at an 82. Successful take-on percentage, it's a bang on 60% per 90 that has him bang on at 80. Times tackled during take-on, it's a 0.79 per 90. Now we drop a bit again at a 37. And tackled during take-on percentage, it's a 38% per 90 that has him at 59. Now, we go back to pointing out positives again. The positive that is as clear as it gets right now is his ability to carry the ball, which is something I started with. And it's 39.21 carries per 90 that puts him at the 88 mark on the percentile. Total carrying distance, it's 1.94.99 that puts him at the low 80s in the league with 83. Progressive carrying distance, it's 76.51. That drops him a bit, but still has him well above average, 62. Progressive carries, it's 1.12 per 90. That has him a bit below average compared to the others at a 43. Carries into the final third, it's 1.08. That has him now a bit above average at a 53. Carries into the penalty area at a 0.17. That again, we are rising a bit above average. It's a 55. Miscontrols, it's a 1.62 per 90 that has him at a 36. Not horrible, but bit below average. And dispossessed, it's 1.5 times per game. Has him at a very, very low 7. Passes received is 47.79. That has him high 80s again. And progressive passes recovered, it's a 2.75. That has him at a 66 compared to the other. A lot of positives, mostly positives, to point out from looking at his stats in Portugal First Division in general. And strengthening the points of what we said earlier, more or less. Strengthening the points of what we went over as what will show when you look at the player at first, and what will start showing the more you watch the player. Now, let me get something else ready really quickly, if possible. Okay, it's prepared already, so let me flip over to the other screen really quickly. Scores, good old sofa score. Once again, that has been incredible in the help that it's given me lately. Let it actually load. I'm not supposed to go here, am I? I am supposed to go right here. I hope that everything is managing to show. Wait, no, nothing's showing. Now it's showing. Great. Okay, I got it better late than never. I apologize for the billion words as usual. But as we said, small stature player, 22, right-footed, very consistent as well in the last 12 months. The main strength that's been pointed out here is what I mentioned as the main strength as well, his transitional ability and the ability to spot the long passes. This is his more than efficient, more than eye-catching, just pure consistency in the second division. But that's not mostly what I wanted to focus on, because I wanted to focus on his stats in the Euros that just passed, the under 21 Euros. You see his heat map here that's more than full, more than showing even on its own where the player shines the most, how progressive he can be, and his not severe luck, but his slight luck in the tracking part. Scores for games, for starts, 90, total minutes played 360, and getting one, team of the week. No goals, 1.8 shots per game, shots on target 0.3, but that's not what I want to focus on. I want to focus here. 1 point, not 1 point, 106.5 touches per game with one big chance created, 0.8 key passes per game, with his accurate passes being 92.3, which is 94%. That stat alone is nothing to gloss over. That stat alone is incredible, with the accuracy in his own half being 28.3, that's 96%, and the accuracy in the opposition half being 64 passes per game, which is 93%. Accurate long balls at 3.3, which is again a very impressive 68%. Accurate chip passes is 3 per game, which is an above average 55. Defending, as I said, isn't something amazing, but it's not what the player is going to be brought in for. He won 2.3 duels per game. He won 2 ground duels per game, which is 57%, and 0.3 aerial, which is not going to be expected from a player like Diogo. 0.5 fouls per game. He was fouled 1.3 times per game, and he accumulated 1 yellow. In last season's Liga Portugal 2, he played 33 games, started 32 of them. He played 84 minutes per game. So again, we're not talking about solely an efficient player, we're talking about a workhorse as well, which is something that not only Mendilibar loves, but something that can only prove to be nothing other than insanely positive. He got 2 Team of the Week. He did get a goal with 1.5 total shots per game. Goal conversion, of course, at 2%. But going back to the passing, he did pick up an assist for himself. He had 69.3 touches per game. He had 4 big chances created, 1.1 key passes per game, which is very good again. And we go to the biggest positive once again, which is 48.8 accurate passes per game, which is 90%, 95% in his own half with 23.1, and 84% in the opposition half with 25.9. Accurate long balls again, the biggest positive of this player with 2.9 per game, which is 68%. Accurate chip passes per game is 1.8, which is 59%. With accurate crosses, of course, 0.2 with 26%. Successful dribbles were 0.8 per game with 46. Total duels won 4.7 with 47%, with ground duels being 4.4. He was fouled 1.5 times he fouled 1.5 times per game. He was fouled 2.2, and he accumulated 4 yellows. In general, we're talking about a very unique case. For sure, we're talking about a very unique case of a player, and we're talking about a very exciting one. So I can't wait for him to come here and be announced within the weekend, probably. And I can't wait for him to, I'm sure, in trusting the department of the team, the scouting department of the team, and Mendilibar as well. Can't wait for him to shut us all up. Trust in the team and be more positive. And don't believe everything. Those are my main pieces of advice. And I hope you enjoyed today's transfer chatter as well. I'm sure enjoying doing this. They are more than a nice distraction and a unique take on everything. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. Don't forget to nominate us for the FCAs if you like what you see. And we'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.